Good morning. My name is Takuo. Thank you for coming today. I like to. I don't know. I don't think it's not related. I'm quite. I'll be talking about what Google Japan does, what it offers in the Japanese market. So it's more about covering what we actually do and how I can see developers in Japan. Kind of overseas demographics, things like that. And my name is Takuo. I've been working at Google for 9.5 years. And I joined DevRel team since day one at Google. So I've been working at DevRel team for 9.5 years. And right now I'm responsible for Japan and also East Asian countries in Google. So I'm responsible for Korea and Australia and New Zealand. I'd like to start with how I get here. Because DevRel is not it's quite a unique career path, to be honest. You don't really enjoy DevRel team. You might coming from marketing background or engineering background. So I'd like to share a little bit about how I get here. So 2004, actually I was a student at university. I didn't actually do anything about computer science. I was actually architecture. My major was architecture and until master's degree. So I was not really doing much of coding. But actually, at that time, we were doing 3D graphics using some of the computer programming language to make some of those architecture design. So that's how I had a little interaction with programming language and visual design. And after that, 2006, when Web 2.0 came out and Ajax, and I see lots of companies start building APIs, and I see this is kind of interesting time to join internet because I can see there's lots of opportunities for smaller companies to build something on top of the large companies' infrastructures. So I joined the company called Recruit Holdings in their new business department, and I was responsible for building APIs and also not just building APIs, but we need to build some sample apps so external developers can learn from it. So I worked there for about 5 years. And after 2012, which is almost 11 years ago, companies, my boss asked me to go to Silicon Valley because they wanted to invest companies in US who might see Japan as their business opportunities. And they're looking for someone who can kind of talk with potential startups who are entering to Japan market. So I was working in Silicon Valley for a year. And I was very excited because I thought, well, I get to be with lots of amazing engineers and designers and product managers who's building next generation's applications and stuff. But the reality was, if I went there as an investor, not many people wants to see me. Only people I get to interact with is CFO or CEO. And the only thing we discussed was their cash flow and PL. Not really. I didn't have a chance to interact with product management team or software engineering team. And I was sitting in this working space run by 500 startups in Silicon Valley, and I seen Google's logo on the left. Right. This was actually for Tech in 2012. And I asked the person who was responsible for this space, why is Google's logos here? Are they founding startups here? And the person who was responsible for this space responded, no, actually Google's DevRel team comes here and helps startups. They don't really do the funding, but they tell and teach startups how to use Google's API, how to scale their applications. It's I saw that's an interesting job, right? Because not just giving startups the money and fundings, but there's another way to help external startups or external developers through sharing the knowledge of the APIs the companies are building. So I joined Google as DevRel, and that was 2013. So this year is my 10th year working at Google, and since then I've been helping developers, startups, mainly in Japan, to success on top of Google's technologies. So what we do in Japan, so as usual, we often host events. It's one to many people's interaction. If you want to interact with over, let's say, 200 people, 200 developers before pandemic, the easiest way was to host an event and share about our new APIs and our new SDKs and libraries and stuff. So that was one thing we do. another thing we do is Japan. Majority of developers only speak Japanese or only use Japanese. So we have localized blog for developers, dedicated version. So everything we announce in the US, we localize and we publish through our local blog so that the Japanese developers can read and understand our APIs. And also we host lots of meetups. Some of the meetups we are still doing like hybrid. So we often do lots of meetups, like casual meetups online, and we do host some events as well. That's what we do. And of course we sponsor some of the events, and we actually want to meet with developers. Like sometimes I think the fundamental part of developer relations is we not just share, but we get the feedback, right? So we have input, output, feedback loops to improve our products. So it's important for us to interact with other developers who are actually using our APIs. So we go to the booth and we sit and talk and discuss with any developers there. And we also build sample apps, and so developers can learn. Because not just from slides, I believe reading sample codes, actually you can learn more from it. So if we release new applications, new libraries or APIs, we often open source our sample codes through GitHub. And of course we speak at the event like today to not just host the event, but also we go to the event and meet with more developers as well. And the other thing we kind of see, this is not unique in Japan, but what we are really pushing right now in Japan is more inclusive developer communities in Japan. So since 2016, 15, I think, we've been hosting more women-focused events. It's not just, if you're using women, but it's not just women, it's more, we want to make sure it's inclusive events for every particular technologies. So one event we did in 2000, we kind of sponsored in 2019 was the DevFest Women Tokyo, which I still believe it's one of the biggest women-focused events. And of course we're running events in March and April, because March 8th is International Women's Day, so we really would love to see more women developers in Japanese ecosystem. And our team actually also runs the accelerator program in Peru. So our audience are not primary, we kind of call developer as people who build application or service on top of Google's platform. So that includes startups, right? That includes large enterprise. But talking with a large enterprise might have a different skill set, because it includes more about business side. So our team actually runs accelerator program for smaller stage startups, and they can use our Google Cloud platform from their day one of building their product. So we are actually doing the physical. Actually, this year it's hybrid. So we have a space in Google Shibuya office it's dedicated for startups. So we invite startups there, and we run the workshops for the startups. And this is the campus, the dedicated space for startups. We kind of provide free space, free Wi-Fi. The startup who registers can use, and they can actually do the mentoring from the other people. Right? I'd like to talk a little bit about how we think about developer relations. And I know the definition of developer relations are different per company, And I think if you see your org chart, right, depends on the company. Sometimes DevRel is under marketing team, or DevRel might be under sales team. DevRel might be under engineering team. And I think it depends on the org structure. You might have a different expectation from your companies, right? In Google, the developer relations team are sitting under engineering team. So we are tied to engineering team because we believe the people we talk are developers. So it's better to sit under engineering team. So we have a similar background with the people we talk with. Developer relations. So we have several teams who have main relations in our company, Google. For example, developer relations, public relations, PR. We have government relations, the people who usually interact with policy policymakers, and making sure like we're going through the right direction and making sure we get feedbacks from like stakeholders. My definition of the population is like we build a strong relationship between Google and developers to raise awareness of our API and SDKs, get feedbacks to improve our product, and lastly, we kind of generate use case for our APIs. That's three kind of main things we're doing at DevRel. And our team, we collaborate with, I think it's very similar with all the developer relations team across the industry. We work closely with eng team, designer, product management, marketing, PR, and policy team. So whatever we do, we make sure like we work closely with stakeholders. And in our team, we kind of structure the relations team with these kind of job ladders. One is developer advocates or evangelists, developer program engineers. We have program manager, this is me, and tech writers. So these are the kind of four different experts we kind of form DevRel team in our company. And if you want to break down like what they actually do, so let's say DevRelCon, this is the show, this is the stage, right? Program manager is like a producer, like kind of identify like what you want to do, like what's needed, how much budget is needed, like what's the timeline, who we need to talk with, like how are we going to get more, like audience. These are the responsibility of program managers. And developer advocates are the people who are actually on the stage to talk to people. Like a fish show, it's like actor or actress. And developer program engineers are the people who kind of build the apps for like demos. So they kind of create assets for people to show on the stage. And tech writers are the people who write scripts or who write the API docs, so developers can understand how to use these APIs and sample apps. So I know like these in real world, to be honest, like due to headcount and stuff, like it's not as structured as this. Like I see a couple people are working like developer advocates and tech writer-ish role. So there's no like it's a bit more complicated than this. But like this is how we kind of form our team in Google. Right, KPI. I know every company has a different KPI, but our team, we kind of value developer reach is to measure how many developers we interact with, right? Since pandemic, we're also including some of these dev reach through YouTube channels as well. Feedbacks, how many feedbacks we got, how many of them went into actual product management roadmap. These kind of feedbacks is one of the KPIs. Case studies, like what kind of success case did you make with your external partners, like with your startups. Like let's say, how can we make some of the TensorFlow use case to help local farmers using TensorFlow to detect and another is training completion. So we have launched several courses in like Coursera or Udacity, and often we provide coupons for developers to use our training courses. So we would like to make sure like, okay, how many people have actually went through the course, and we kind of track the funnel, like, okay, how many people enter the training, and how many people actually complete the course. And making sure, it kind of gives us a feedback of the quality of the content still, but also, like, how can it do it better, right? If the global standard is like 6% completion rate, how can it improve 15% in Japan? Maybe we create Slack channels for everyone to enter, and we can kind of put them through the Slack channels if someone gets stuck during the course, we can help. That kind of stuff what we're doing. And kind of core values, those relations in my team is we kind of see this chemistry of product and program. So even if you have amazing products, if you don't really do it right with that program, then I think there's space for you to increase more impact. Same with program side. If you have a wonderful program, let's say it sounds like Startup Accelerator, but if the products are not really at that level, you don't really get the developers' adoptions. So products, I think it's important to have those products and programs are something we value. So Google, we have several developer-facing products like Android, Google Cloud, Firebase, Flutter. So we need, our team is responsible to making sure we deliver these product APIs through our programs to write code use. So on the program side, we have Google Developer Group, experts, Women Tech Maker, and Developer Students Club. I will just talk quickly about each of these programs. So globally, we have 25 million developers globally. I know the definition of developer is a bit different per, because per survey. I don't think this is the perfect number, but we believe 50 million users what touches our product developer tools. It might use Android Studio, it might use some of our Chrome. So we believe it kind of touch 15 million developers. And how we want to support them? So we want to support them by, one is community building. Not just hosting meetup, but building community itself is something we believe is very important. And of course running meetup, workshop, for these community leaders and people who come to our community events. And I believe building sample apps for our developers is something we actually do. So I would like to start with community buildings and how our programs are built towards this community buildings network. So we have 4 major programs for developer communities. One is Google Developer Group. This is for professionals. Women Tech Maker. This is for more women focused on developer audience. Google Developer Experts. These are called like developer advocates type of person. We certify external developer as a Google Developer Expert, and we ask them to go on the stage and talk about Google's technologies from their perspective. And lastly, we're focusing on students and next generations. So we have a program called Google Developer Students Club. These are the program we run. So first, I'd like to start with Google Developer Groups. So we have this program for over 12 years in Google, and we've been helping developers, not just Japan, but globally, to help developers to host their own programs. So we have roughly 20 Google Developer Groups in Japan, and we help them. We kind of sponsor them. They monthly meetups or weekend hackathons and stuff like that. And we kind of give them material okay, these are some apps, these are the slides we use at Google I/O. So Google Developer Groups can use those materials when they run the workshops. So these are the we have everywhere. Thankfully, we have 1,100 GDG chapters in 140 countries. And once a year, I know it was hard during the pandemic, and we used to invite everyone, all the GDG leads to one place to host global summits. So they don't feel like they're just running GDGs, but they're also connected to, they're part of the global communities, right? And they can learn. I think it's quite similar like DevRelCon, you can learn from each other, other community leaders. So this is a group photo, every year the community is getting bigger, so this one I think we took from some building, I believe. And we kind of see one of the interesting things about working at DevRel is I can have access to amazing work what other Google Developer Groups are doing. This is one of the conference happened in Africa in 2019. One of the GDG chapter in Africa hosted this event. I believe this was in Nigeria. So it's amazing to see how developers are very excited about learning about new technologies. Same here, I think this is in Africa. And in Japan, we have Google Developers Groups in major cities where we have developers, we kind of see a developer hub. So I believe what we need to do is making sure not just support developers based in Tokyo and Osaka and those kind of cities, but there are lots of amazing developers based in many cities in Japan. And I believe this is getting more stronger after pandemic. We kind of know that at least several people from Tokyo has been moved outside of Tokyo after pandemic and working remotely. But they still want to participate in some offline events as well. Right? They happen to work from outside of Tokyo, but they are happy to participate in local GDG. So we're thinking about, okay, let's expand, or let's have more Google Developer Groups, so any developers who want to learn about Google technologies can join the developer groups. Is how we're trying to do it. And this is a video Sorry. So this is a video of the DevFest. DevFest is the kind of flagship event Google Developer Group hosts every year. And in 2009, last December, 2022 December, this is actually first DevFest in Tokyo after the pandemic. So I know people are still need to wear masks and that thing, but we're getting back. Until 2022 December, all the DDG's Tokyo's event was purely online event. So I'm really thrilled to see the pandemic is finally getting over and seeing more people in online events. まあ、悩みデバイス対応でいるんですけど、none of these contents are good, actually. We usually use the contents from like Android Developer Summit or like Firebase Dev Summit because most of the contents are in US or in English, so it's still very important to use recap events in local language. So when we do like I/O events, Google I/O recap events through GDGs, we actually use the exact same materials from Google I/O. Because it's still super valuable for local developers to learn in local language, even though like the original content you can see it on YouTube, right? So that's might be one unique thing about Japan is the recap events still have a lot of value. So the speaker does not really like we kind of ask Google developer experts to share what we announced at Google I/O. Right. Next one is Google Developer. Next one is Google Developer Student Club. So Google Developer Student Club is a program we launched in 2021. I guess 2021. So this is our third year running. The reason we were running this program is we see lots of interest from students to learn new technologies. In Japan, we still see in many like computer science universities, they still don't teach the modern app development. They might be using very classic app development from like 2000-ish years. They're using lots of legacy frameworks and stuff like that. So lots of students are eager to learn about new technologies and wants to learn about like how to use public cloud, like Google Cloud Platform. So we have over 30 chapters. It's mainly universities, and we asked them to host. I mean, it's a club, right? So we asked them to run their meetup at their classroom after their schools. And one interesting thing we did is last October is when Sundar teacher came to Japan, he actually wanted to meet with these students because he really wanted to meet with next generation developers and wants to learn about what they think about Google's product and how can we improve our product. So Google Developer Students is quite a young program, but it's already becoming a very important program for Google because we believe supporting next generation developers is something super important for not just Google but for IT industry in general. Experts. Expert is more like it's very similar with developer advocates, but they are not working for Google. So we kind of certify external developer who has been contributing to like open source libraries or has been speaking at public conferences. We ask if they are interested in becoming Google developer experts because the reason why we're running Google developer experts is not just we want to outsource our developer advocates, but I think it's more important that they can have a more they have a different perspective of a Google's developer product. As a full-time employee of Google, like there's something I can say and I cannot say, right? For example, I don't want to say something bad about other companies' products, right? So I can't create like Qualcomm between Google Cloud Platform versus other cloud platforms. And these are good things about, and I can't pitch like that. I think that's not the right way to do it. But I think lots of audience would like to learn about that, right? If there's framework A, B, C, like which one is a good, like which framework they should stick with. As a Google employee, I can always recommend like AngularJS, for example. But some people are more eager to learn about like what's the difference between React, Vue, AngularJS. So Google developer experts, even though they're certified by Google, but they're also Microsoft MVPs. They're okay to talk about like what's the pros and cons about like AngularJS versus Vue.js or React.js, right? So I think that's more important for developers. Like they rather want to hear like honest opinion from your expert developers. So that's why we're running this program so that we can provide developers more like honest opinion about which tools and which API they can recommend. So similar with Google developer groups, we have we have a handful of developer experts globally, and we're making sure we type this program. And one interesting thing is this program actually started in Japan in 2009. So this program actually started as API expert program in Japan in 2009. The reason why is because of the lack of languages. We didn't have enough resources, to be honest, and lots of content were in English. Many developers in Japan were struggling about understanding, learning about new technologies. YouTube was not that famous at that time, the developers. So we needed like external developer support. So actually we started this program in 2009 in Japan. And we making sure we have a good balance of all these experts. Like we found like we have a good balance of cloud, Android, machine learning, so they can support many types of developer communities in Japan. Women Tech Makers. This is a program what we are focusing, especially in March and April, because of the International Movement Days. We really want to advocate for inclusive culture in developer ecosystem in Japan. So to April 15, Google Women Tech Maker Tokyo is hosting events. If you're still around in Japan, please join. Place is TBD. I believe I heard it's happening offline, but they're still updating the website and making sure they have right size of the space. So I'll probably go. It's not women only event. Like if you kind of align with this philosophy, everyone's welcome. So this is the event. Women Tech Maker Tokyo is planning in April 15th. So these are kind of programs. I talked about products and programs. Product we have like Android, Google Cloud, Firebase, and we kind of support these product awareness or feedback through Google developer groups, Google developer student clubs, Women Tech Makers, and Google developer experts. And we often host meetups. And like I/O is like probably one of the flagship event Google hosts. I hope we can do this again after pandemic. In Japan, we often use the conference space to host events. Like if you want to reach like around 500 developers in person, it's still important to host this kind of event. But what's more important is like as a DevRel person, we go to meet with developers, regardless of the size of the meetups, right? I think it's always important to meet with developers, meet with and understand like what their needs. So like it's not like we always rent these kind of gorgeous place. We always often go to this type of like working space and help developers with our product. So that's something important. Like we don't want to be like just hosting luxury big events. But we want to make sure like we go to everywhere to understand developers' needs. That's why we kind of want to build Google developer groups everywhere, not just Tokyo, because we believe lots of different needs are coming from outside of Tokyo as well. So this is a photo of the event, not really the event, but like one of the workshops we did in Tohoku area in 2 years ago. Lastly, we believe building apps as a DevRel, not just speaking, hosting event, but also keeping ourselves as a developer is also important as a DevRel people. So we call ourselves zeroth customer. First customer is to be, before we release API, we believe we build a sandbox before we launch the API. So we kind of become the first customer of those APIs. We're the first people who give the product feedback. One of the examples is Google I/O. At Google I/O, we announced lots of APIs, new Android features, new features Google Cloud. How do we talk to them if you don't know how to use them, right? So we build Google I/O apps using those APIs. So right after the I/O keynotes, we switch our Google I/O app with all the dark mode. If we announce dark mode at Android and Google I/O, we use those dark mode at our Google I/O app. So developers can know how to use these new features by us publishing open source. So that's something we really value, is we are the always first customer, zeroth customer. Before the launching the APIs, we're the people who build the apps on top of those APIs, and we actually give the feedback to the managers. And at Google, we are a strong believer of open source. We've been publishing lots of APIs and sample apps on Google GitHub. It's under Google samples repository. So if you are interested, please check these sample apps. Lastly, it's not always top-down request. Like, let's say, okay, Android 14 developer preview came out. Yes, of course, we love to work on those and making sure our developers are using our new API and SDKs. But as a local developer relations lead, what we believe is important is like, what kind of content our local developer wants. So one thing, what we do is like, we actually host more women-focused events in Japan than other countries because we believe that's more crucial in Japan. By doing some survey internally, we kind of identify like Japan, Korea, each Asian country might have a less diversity than other countries. So I kind of see this is a big program for Japan, and we don't want to keep this diversity ratio. So that's why a local developer relations need, hey, in Japan, we're going to focus on DUI. Right? So that's why we host more Women Tech Makers events. We don't really say Google is doing this and this, because this is not something that we want to brag about it. So we kind of sponsor us anonymously, like booking venues and stuff, but we want to contribute to build more inclusive communities in Japan. So compared to more like Women Tech Makers programs globally, in Japan, like we do heavily support more developer communities in Japan. And another things we learned is, I think this might not be just Japan thing, but like around 2016, 18, lots of companies start launching like AI ML frameworks. Google, we announced TensorFlow. Many other companies launched similar APIs and libraries. And I hear lots of feedback from like Android developers or web developers. Like, do I need to learn AI ML to keep my job as a developer? Like, I tried to learn TensorFlow, but it looks like that's very different. Even the ML engineers are very different from like front-end developer. So even though it's under like developer or software engineering like job title, but their expertise are very different. But I know my apps is going to implement some AI ML features. How can I learn those AI ML even if I'm not mastering in those mathematics and stuff? So I realized this is kind of common sense among local developers in Japan. So we wanted to lower the bar to learn AI ML. Because you app developers, you might not really need to become like TensorFlow expert. But you want to know what AI ML does and how to work with AI ML engineers in the future, right? So you don't have to become an expert, but you kind of want to know like what is going on in AI ML world. So what we did was we launched like online training programs. This was very unique in Japan because we had one of the highest demand among developers. So not just running the AI ML training, but we kind of making sure like we create like very local flavor swags. So this is like ramen bowl. Like if you finish this course, you get ramen bowl. I think making sure like we do some unique things so it kind of motivates developers. But like always making sure like it's not just coming from top down. We never asked to run this AI ML training for non-ML engineers, but I believe it's important because you need to if you're a software engineer and you need to collaborate with AI ML or data scientists in the future. So it's good to understand like what they're doing. So that's what we did. And next generation. So we're entering into the aged society. So we need to support more elder people with younger generations. So how can we give them more opportunities as a software engineers is one thing we kind of see. And 2011 earthquake hits Toho area, and many of the people lost their job. Not just the people who were working, but also like students. So what does it mean? Like that area was heavily running like fishing industries or agriculture. After the earthquake, not fishing industry got damaged, but also agriculture got damaged because they got seawater flooded all over the farm. So it's that farm, like they can't really do agriculture anymore. So lots of like students lost their career paths. They were thinking about working agriculture industry. They realized, okay, like what should I do? Like, the lots of like fishing industries or agriculture industry in Toho area is closing. What can I do? So since 2011, Google has been supporting like these Tohoku Tech Dojo initiatives. So we are helping local students to learn about app development. So they kind of see becoming app developer or working in IT industry is another career path they have. So making sure like what we provide these career opportunities for young generations. So that goes back to Takuo Developer Student Club. We value students and how can we help next generation, and I believe they will be building apps and they will be making the future. So that's something we really care. That's why we still Sundar Pichai's time, and of course he really wanted to be with both students as well. So we wanted to make not just a photo shooting, but also deep discussion with the students in Japan. I know there's no one-size-fits-all solutions for developer relations. I think every company have a different KPIs, different goals, and different market. So, but I think it's important to kind of customize for the local market and making sure you deliver and have a like fundamental thing that's developer relations are people who help developers success. I don't want to be a developer relations to success. I want developers to success. That's why we're here to making sure we kind of serve for developers. That's something I really care about Japan, my team. And I really love to see kind of collaborating with other companies. DevRel is like one of the great teams that we can collaborate with other companies to support, to join this event. Like we see amazing sponsors. So in many ways, like we can collaborate together. So I really want to collaborate with many people here today, so that we can contribute to better developer ecosystem in Japan. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.